Welcome to Coalescence. The world of work is increasingly complex. It's also increasingly intelligent. We have access to so much data, so many resources, so much training opportunity, so many emerging technologies. Yet, teams still break down. People still leave meetings feeling misunderstood or leave their workdays feeling frustrated and wondering, why is this so hard? I'm Jessica Culo, and this podcast is designed to explore the coalescence between human design, leadership, emerging technologies, and business structures. The impact this has on execution and goal achievement is huge. Each episode is designed to look at the patterns underneath behaviors and workplace dynamics and relationships. I think the future of work is not just about technology. It has to intersect with the people side. Before we get started, please review, subscribe, share this podcast with people that you think might find it interesting. It helps us to reach more people and continue to have deep, intelligent, and meaningful human conversations about the complexities in the work world today. Now let's dive into the next episode. Hey, Lisa. Good morning.
Good morning, Jessica.
Thank you so much for doing this with me. I'm really excited to talk with you about something we've talked about a lot, having known you for as long as I have, but we haven't talked about it in on a platform like this before. So it's a little bit different. So before I kind of dive in, I just want to introduce you properly. So Lisa Daijo, she co-owns a group of franchises in the recruiting and staffing industry. Express Employment Professionals, Specialized Recruiting Group, and Express Healthcare Staffing, all based in Honolulu. Clients and candidates all over the Hawaiian Islands, but I know you're based in Honolulu, one of my favorite places in the world. Been in business for 19 years. And notably, consecutive winner or recipient of the Best Places to Work Award for Hawaii. So I think that's super, super cool. We'll talk more about that in a little bit too. Always like to share how we know each other. So we've known each other almost 18 years. Because I was pregnant, and that's our story, is having, working in the same industry. I knew of Lisa, and I wanted to meet you. And so I had just dropped into Lisa's office
Yep.
unexpected. So that's one thing, to drop in unexpected. But then secondarily, I was very pregnant and had just been in a car accident with a big cast on my arm. So funny story, but of course you welcomed me in with open arms, and we've been friends ever since. So also want to mention, we got to go through the Leadership Academy together as a 4-year program, and it relates to what we're talking about here. The podcast I've created here just explores the complexities of leadership, human design, the emergence of technology and how we apply it, systems, how we interpret, how we misinterpret people and situations. And, that whole 4-year program highlighted a lot of this, I think, for both of us. But one thing I've heard you speak about a lot is, we all know business is successful or not successful, or people are successful or not successful for a variety of reasons. It's never just one thing, but for you, it's people. People is so important to you. I've always really admired that. And to circle back quickly before we kind of get into my first question, I just wanted to highlight, this Best Places to Work award that you and your team regularly receive. It's one thing to be a great employer. That's not easy in the first place, but also, in Hawaii, it's different, and there are different complexities. You got to, obviously it's competitive. You've got to focus on quality service, which you guys definitely do. But quality of life is measured differently there. Fairness, respect, aloha. You've talked a lot about Ohana. So that was kind of where I wanted to start. And not to mention, cost of living is crazy, right?
Yes.
So you've got all
Yes.
these extra layers of complexity. And so I thought I'd just start by asking, how do you take these philosophies or these extra layers of complexity and incorporate them into your leadership model and to the way you guys operate there?
Yeah, I think we're actually lucky sometimes because we are on an island, right? So it does limit sometimes their choices so they can be able to be with us. But I think it's really treating everyone, like you said, like Ohana, family. And so we spend a lot of time getting to know the individual and utilizing a lot of different resources prior to even them bringing on to do their working genius, do their disc, do a lot of analysis and to see how they would work well in our organization. And one of the key factors I look at is motivation. So when looking at what their motivation is, we can design it to make sure they continuously feel appreciated throughout the time period, right? There's also the five languages of appreciation in work, right? So the love languages. So trying to make sure it fits exactly to what the person needs is what we try to work on in my entire leadership team. I luckily have 3 leaders, one for healthcare, one, in Texas right now who's worked with me for 18 years, but she has moved to Austin and works remotely. And then I have a 3rd manager who helps co-manage the whole core business with her. And then on top of that, they also do SRG. So, yeah.
You guys all have the same philosophies. You're all very similar. Yeah, and I
Mhm,
see the family, the concept that
mhm.
you have there. It's obvious. So you have a really intentional way of understanding your people, whether it's incorporating the assessments or checking for motivation, testing for that. It's not surface level. You just seem to really see them. So I don't know that I've ever really asked you this, but like where does that come from for you? Like where did that come from?
Yeah, I think it's because I worked for a Fortune 10 company prior to this. So straight out of college, being with now it's called Verizon, but at the time, it was called GTE. But when I was working there, you were a number, and it was even though we were in Hawaii, we were just a number. And I had to terminate a lot of people, just do the verbal, written, final. And I just knew that like the back of my hand because I wanted to make sure we protected the corporation and we were really were not spending time with the individuals. So we were getting bought out quite a lot towards the end of my time at the organization. And so I started to change my style of leadership and really became extremely close to a lot of my team members. And I know I've heard a lot of leadership concepts where don't get too close to your people. That's dangerous. You shouldn't do these things. They shouldn't know you all about you. And I was like, I don't know, it doesn't feel right. So I became very transparent. And when we went through a very large buyout, my team was the only team in the entire country that stayed 100% intact and stayed intact for a year afterwards, after the merger, and we won one of the top producer awards in the company. And I think that's because of the way I was rewarded for that, for
Mm,
being transparent and really open to what I'm going through. If I was nervous about something, I explained it to them and why. And it was very favorable to the results. And so I think I wanted to continue that when I started my own organization. Yeah.
mm-hmm. You talk about motivation and how you tie it to appreciation, which I think is also just a kind of a unique
Hmm.
outlook. Do you have a process though, aside from like kind of identifying motivation, doing the working genius, doing the disc all at the beginning? Like, what is your process for really establishing an understanding?
Yeah. So before they're hired, we do the working genius and the disc, so we kinda know that right away, and then within their first 2 weeks, we do the motivation, test to see where to focus on, and then, I do one-on-ones with brand new people. For new people, they get to have weekly one-on-ones for the first 3 months of them working with us, and that allows us to really build a strong relationship, and, we kinda dabbled with this back and forth over the years, went to a point where I didn't have any interaction with the team except for my leaders because I was trying not to step on my leadership's, their toes, and when we went and we analyzed it and we looked at the working genius, it actually was ineffective for me not to be interacting with the new people. We were having quite a bit of turnover, and I think it makes people feel those people that the appreciation of just having that physical contact connection, meaning that they just got to be in the same physical space as me as the leader and being able to have that kind of conversation that they felt that they were of value to our whole organization. So I think that's critical. And when we didn't have that, no matter what, even if they were paid well or they had a great leader, good training, that element made a difference And, we had to go through trial and error, right? We're like, okay, let's not. And do we really know we like them because they know Lisa gets attached and she'll talk them into staying and she'll be all this. And then I was like, so that's what we did for a little while. But then they're like, oh, we're losing a lot of people. So
Yeah.
and when I did the exit interviews, that's what we kind of found out. They're like, we weren't sure what the organization was completely about. And I was like, well, our values, our mission, and I guess the words mean one thing, but this to be able to interact with the owners is a
Mhm.
big difference. Yeah.
Totally. A new friend of mine, Dr. Jody Carrington, she's got an amazing podcast. She's from
Oh,
Alberta.
okay.
She said to me the other day, attention is the rarest form of generosity.
Mm,
And I was like, yeah, and especially increasingly in the complexities of the world we're in right now. I mean, you and I are virtual right now, but there's
mm,
just so much more of that too. So
mm,
so you obviously really value assessments. I do too. You and I have always really
mhm.
connected on that. Going to the one-to-ones though, when someone's new or even yeah, when they're new, what are you paying most attention to?
I want them to be open and honest. So I
Mm,
actually want an analytical discerner to say what would be better if they were just going through the motions and they don't kind of dissect it. I kind of push them a little harder, like,
mhm,
okay, what I really want you to do is look at this. Is there any way we could get better? So each week I always ask this question and they know they're always ready for it. I'll say, if you had a magic wand, what would you have
mhm,
changed this week? Or what could you
mm,
do to make your job a little easier? And so they know I'm going to ask this. So they always are prepared now. When they first
mhm.
start, they don't. But I wanted them to know that so that their mind is always thinking that way.
Right.
Because when you feel that you are not empowered to make any change, you feel stuck.
Mhm,
And then I think that makes them not feel as engaged in the organization. But when they're like, "Oh, I remember I'm the one that told Lisa that that didn't work, and
mhm,
then we changed this whole thing, and it means a lot to them." And so that little question has actually made a lot of our changes in policies because I don't get to see the day to day. And then when they say that, I'm like, well, why are we doing it that way? I'm like,
right.
sometimes I have no idea. And seeing it through the lens of a brand new person really helps think through things that are maybe very inefficient or just things that we did just because we always did it that way doesn't mean it's the
Mhm.
right way. So that's been very helpful.
So if you had a magic wand, what would you change in your job to make it easier for you?
Yeah, easier or it depends. So like each person has different motivation, right? So if the person actually likes to be challenged, but they want to make sure that they're making more money, right? Because that's why they want that
Mhm,
challenge because they want more of a reward. Then I
mhm,
would ask, how would you have made more money? What could we have changed or have done to make this an easier way? And then some people just want it so that that wand is so that they can spend more time with their family, right? Because they want more life
right.
balance. And
Mhm,
so that's where I make them visualize that wand to make sure things are a way that they could go home early.
right,
So I change the wand visualization to the result of what their motivation is, if that
right.
makes sense. But that's what I
You're
do. Yeah.
customizing it.
Yeah.
So how do you tell the difference between when somebody's just struggling and when they're just
Mhm.
disengaged?
Yeah, so a lot of it's through questions, right? So I always believe in the heal, will, or skill
Say that
type of
again?
heal, will, or skill. So this is a training. Actually, we launched this training once again at our kickoff in January
Mhm,
because we're starting to feel that people weren't able to identify that they needed to improve their skill sets. They were seeing it as a hill. They'd be like,
mhm,
oh, well, the clients are all saying they have no needs right now. It's
right,
like, or do you not know how to overcome that objection?
right,
Let's try
right,
to dive a little deeper. Is it a skill,
right.
or is it a will? Are you not willing to push through that objection? And so the heal, will, and
Mhm.
skill has been critical to identify really what the root cause of the issue is, and for us to then build a coaching plan to make sure we're accelerating their skill sets.
As you say that, I think a lot of times leaders are too quick to simplify. They're just that person's disengaged, bad hire, don't fit our core values. And so I think that's a really neat way to differentiate that, and it's an area where people jump to a simplified conclusion where it's not that simple. It's a little bit more complex.
Yeah. And maybe
Um,
they don't even know themselves, right? So that's why when
yeah.
you ask the questions, they go, you know what? I guess I really have been lacking motivation right now.
Mhm.
So it's just that way versus just yelling at them or saying, "Why are you not doing this?" It helps them
I can't
dissect, right?
picture you yelling at
I
anybody.
know. But if I have 3 leaders, right? So that each of them are slightly different. And so I'm like, instead of that, let's ask a few more questions. Let's figure out what's going on. And it's helped them. And then the other thing, that I always do is I say, think of them as an adopted child, right? Once we brought them into our family, we're not going to get rid of them. So you take your time before you bring them into the family because I don't mind if they took forever to hire someone and we have to go a little bit of short staffed than for us to hire, fire, hire, fire, hire, fire. So they will take their time to hire because she'll never let the person go. I said, "Well, if they do something unethical or they do something like outrageous, of course I'm gonna let them go. But um, I just don't want us to just hire without having real thought and how that person is going to fit in the organization. And
Yeah.
that's why down they test and we make sure we do a group interview. All of us are kind of involved and
Mhm.
they don't have to wait for me, but we do it as a team. So if one of us aren't there, at least the majority could interview the person and go forward if it's a highly needed position. But
Mhm.
we have at least the majority. We know what we're looking for, and we have a rule of thumb. And so, yeah, it makes it easier.
I know that's your reputation that you no one is allowed to ever let anybody go.
Yeah.
I know that's
I
your
know.
reputation. But what do you think people, maybe your leadership team then, like what do they often misunderstand about how people are wired to work and how they respond to pressure? Because I know in recruiting we deal with a lot of pressure.
Yeah. So I think sometimes it's just taking a little pause. Like our leaders will jump to thinking someone is lazy, is what's really gotten to. They're like, oh, this younger generation, they just don't push through like we did. And then so try to sit down with we have a girl that she's just same age as my son, my oldest son. She's 23. And so her and I have conversations and hers is very interesting. Like the way people think younger is so different. Like my son, he has no call reluctance. He, came
Mhm.
here internship. He just call all day long and no fear. And she had no fear either. So I was like, okay, that's good. But what is the difference of making you do a good job? Not just going through the volume, but
Mhm.
turn turning on your brain. And that's when her and I uncovered she had been diagnosed with attention deficit disorder when she
Mhm.
was in high school.
Mhm.
And she had been on medication through college. And then when she had graduated, she didn't like the way she felt on the medication by and working. So
Mhm.
so she had stopped and I didn't know any of this, but I could see her behaviors changing from when she had started. And so we have these talks and that's how I uncovered a lot of this with her and just trying different methods to keep her on track and focus has been like so magical, right? So that's where it's harder because one of the leaders, her direct supervisor is in Austin, right? So some of these behaviors are not witnessed. And yeah, and then remote, she has difficulties with cues of people's facial reactions and so forth. And there's extraordinary long pauses on virtual calls with this particular staff member. So that was all before I found out the diagnosis. And so just trying to figure out and coach to it, ask questions, we went a right way versus I think if we just assumed, oh, she's just a young person. She stays till whenever she needs the work done. She just didn't understand that was even an option. She thought the day ends, you just leave at the end of the day. And so teaching her even just those things, like you don't leave until you finish what you need to get done. So she's like, okay, not a problem. It's like
Mhm.
just walking them through step by step. And we just assume too much. We always assume that people are bad for some reason.
Mhm.
Everybody like,
Mhm.
they're just lazy. They just,
Yep.
they just don't want to do it. But instead, if we go, what if we thought differently? What if we thought, what is stopping them? What is making it hard for them? Are they really understanding? Like, do they really know that it was okay? And they're like, of course they do. And I'm like, do they? And
Right.
so, yeah, so that was very helpful in one of the and that my managers were, that nuances was what was missing, I think sometimes.
I
Yeah.
think leaders generally overestimate how well they understand their team.
Yeah.
And exactly what you're saying, there's probably a little bit of fear with the neuro
Mm-hmm.
inclusivity thing and
Mm-hmm.
ADHD in the workplace. But one thing I learned recently is ADHD medication in particular is just skyrocketing in benefit plan
Mm-hmm.
expenditures. Like
Wow.
and maybe there's just more of an awareness, but there is an
Yeah.
impact on in the
Mm.
workplace. And it's not to say let's make this more complex. I actually think it makes it simpler when
Mm-hmm.
you can
Mm-hmm.
understand,
Yeah.
why someone is sometimes reacting or behaving, and
Mm-hmm.
then timing fits into all of that as well. That's definitely an area I'm exploring with Axiom. Talking about all of this, and I'm with you, but also, I've gotten it wrong. Do you have a story you could tell of where you misread somebody, and in hindsight, you can see that now?
You know, there's probably a lot of stories that I've got things wrong. When I'm in a rush to get to the results and I don't take the time. So I'm trying to think of a specific time, but I always think of, Teeny when I first we hired her. I loved her and I thought she was so wonderful when I interviewed her because I love people with leadership backgrounds. So when I
Yeah.
interview, I like to have the leadership. So she had a lot of leadership background.
Mhm.
And then we had interviewed this other candidate as well. And the whole other team, everybody wanted me to hire this other person. So I was like, okay, let's just hire both. And this is when we first started. So we don't have as much money. But I was like, how are we going to
Right.
afford this? They go, don't worry, we're going to hire both of them. So we hired both of them. And thank goodness, right, we did because now, but at the moment, Sunny, my other manager was her supervisor at the time. And, she was coming to work late and doing all these things. And so we sat her down and we said, hey, you need to straighten up, all right? I'm gonna fire you. And so,
Just like
and
that.
just like that, and me, I never fire anybody, right? So I'm like, we're gonna fire you, and and she's, and I know that's supposed to be a good thing because she's straightened up, but then I always think it's kind of crazy too because she says to this day she's so fearful that she may be let go of, like, and I go,
Oh.
even despite all the fact that I have never let anybody go, just it just kind of, made it made her straighten up, but it was such a strong impact. And then I think she thinks that's what people need to feel is that they would possibly get fired to do well. And so I think
Mm.
that might have been a mistake that I made. Like,
Mhm.
I think that she naturally was getting better because she cared. And
Mhm.
maybe instead of terminating her at the time, but just trying to share with her how it's impacted negatively the team and what it did, I think she would have just straightened up by knowing that she's hurting other people
Mm.
versus that extreme of we're gonna fight. It just literally it came out of my mouth and just sat there quietly into she's like, "Oh no, I'm so sorry." I was like, "Yeah, yep, get better." So yeah, I think that was a mistake that has appeared as a successful thing, but when I look back on it, I kind of wish I would have done it differently so that, she's been with us for 16 years, that it's not still, creeping up on her and that she has that fear and she doesn't feel that we need to enforce that into our staff in order for them to rise to the occasion. So, yeah.
Balancing empathy and accountability
Hmm.
in a sense,
Hmm.
right? Which
Yeah.
you've got, yeah, great experience with that. We touched on neurodiversity. I've heard you speak about how your son has influenced the way you see people and lead, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that and how your experience being a mom
Hmm.
to a neurodivergent kid who's amazing, Trevor, how that shows up in you and with your team.
Yes, we are like so lucky that Trevor was born because he has autism, and so when he was younger, we didn't really know until he was about 3 years old, and I had already bought the business, right? So we had already launched Express, trying to do this day and night, coming in at 5 in the morning, leaving like at 9, 10 o'clock at
Mhm.
night, like literally barely being home. I didn't get that diagnosis. I don't think I'd be as good of a mom and as good as a leader because it made me realize there's things that are more important in life, right? Than just driving the numbers. And so he made me really understand people a lot better and also how behaviors are just manifesting due to other things that may be occurring, right? So, like, that way I can analyze a little bit more and ask some more questions to really identify why this person is acting the way they are versus just assuming it based on somebody that I had an interaction with in my life that I think that's what this person is. Instead, yeah, you can go forward with it. But yeah, so I think he's helped us so much just pulling that his background and information and working with his therapist and working with his teachers. I'm always
Mhm.
learning how to interact and bring out the best in others. And
Mhm.
so it's been a huge difference in our whole team. No, they all know him. He used to do, they used to have at school called Motivation Mondays, and our whole office would call and just to hear his motivational speech for the week, like
So
turn that frown upside down,
he would
that
give
kind of thing.
your team motivational messages.
Yeah, they literally
Oh.
would call him on his 1-800 line, and he would tell them something, and he would get so happy when he knew it was somebody from our office. He's like, "Oh, Auntie Teeny, oh my God, it's Auntie Rocks, it's somebody." And he would motivate them, and they said it just makes a huge difference. And a lot of times I think when we're complaining or struggling and then they see Trevor, then they realize, you know what? We really have nothing to complain about. We really should be
Right.
happier. And so it's made a difference even for kids in his school. They've given a speech to let us know that one girl had severe depression and um, she was really depressed. And she said she met Trevor and she started hanging out with him. And she said, everybody thought, oh, I did so much for Trevor because I always took care of him and brought him to these different things. But she goes, in reality, he helped me. He made me not feel that anymore. I felt stronger and confident. And then she ended up graduating as a valedictorian of the school.
Wow.
Yeah, and she got a her for all her college applications, she'd write about her interactions with Trevor. And so she's in college now, but when she comes back, she's always, telling him how much he impacted her. So, she ends up going into special education is what she's going into for her major. And
Aw.
when she comes back, she tries to work at the organizations he's working at as well, because the school's great. They offer work programs for special needs
Mhm.
and, yeah, so that he's got that experience and made impact in their lives, which then I share these stories with our team, which then impacts our team's lives as well. Yeah.
Like unintended consequences almost too, right?
Yes.
When you take the time to slow down, which is
Yeah.
hard for me.
It's
And I
harsh.
think
Yeah.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners that
Yeah.
really just slow down and
Mm.
understand, like you said, the more depth about the person, neurotypical or neurodiverse, whatever, it doesn't matter. But taking the time to slow down and understand there are unintended consequences, I think. And maybe that comes
Yeah.
with experience
Yeah.
too. And I remember you telling me years ago,
Mm.
your personality traits change with experience
Yes.
as well. And me as an example of really high impatience that changes over time when you see the benefits or the unintended consequences of fighting that urge to just brush by something or make an assumption. Like you mentioned, assumptions I think are, we know this, but they're scary and most often inaccurate, but they will fit a story we've created, and so it's just easier for
Right.
us then, right?
Yeah. I think because 'cause we're so driven, sometimes we write our story that we wanna go forward with. But I think if you take a little moment and just look around and see where your path really should be, you start to feel a little different. And I think people spend so much time trying to prove that they're right
Mhm.
and we'll get into huge arguments with people, just so much double downing on the fact that I need to be right. Like even like I was sharing with you right before I had to get on the call, having an issue with an associate where the leader just wants them to follow these rules, and this person wants to explain their side, and they're both just not giving up because they both want each other to just say that they each other's right.
Yeah.
And so I had to come in the middle just to listen to both of
Yeah.
them. I really didn't even have to give either one of them recommendations, but just listen
Yeah.
and both can diffuse and then work together and go forward. So, yeah.
I see that too with, in my own company or with clients as well, where
Mhm.
a leader decides an employee is a good fit or not
Mhm.
a good fit. They just
Mhm.
decide it, and then everytheverything
Yeah.
else is gonna be to
Yep.
defend that no matter what. And I see conflict. And it's not looking at the evidence. It's an interpretation, which is scary and not
Yeah.
accurate either. And then
Mhm,
that
mhm,
changes people's trajectories. So
mhm. Yep.
I know you're mentoring leaders in your company right now, but if somebody new you were mentoring says they wanted to get better at understanding their people starting tomorrow, what would you tell them to pay attention to first?
If they're starting in leadership or just starting.
Leadership.
Oh, okay. So
Mhm.
for me, I think you should know yourself first. It's very
Mm.
important to know why you want to be a leader. What was your thought process? Because if you don't know your whys, it makes it very difficult because some people go in it because they want to influence others, right? Some people go because they like to help people. Some people want to go into leadership because they want the control factor too. They want to not have to report to someone else. There's so many different reasons. Doesn't mean one's right or wrong, but you just got to know your own reason, your own purpose, because that makes establishing your values, your way you conduct yourself so much easier. And you can always reevaluate, right? Just because you said that's how you are when you first started your first year, at the end of the year, you could reevaluate and say, you know what? I think I actually want to be a leader because I want to help people. I thought it was because of the money or I thought it was something else, but my actions show differently. And so now I need to reestablish and revisit. Like we talked about over the years, things change. And I definitely have different personality tests and things throughout my career because finding out who you really are and what motivates you makes you a tremendous leader. And then really being excited about learning from others, never thinking you know it all,
Mhm.
because you will learn so much from the brand new people or anybody. I mean, even people that work with you for forever, you might have a just a little deep dive with them and you find some cool information that maybe you never took the time to listen. And
Mhm.
so I find that if you're new, just keep yourself that way too. You find out who you are, but also keep your antennas up and say,
Mhm.
maybe am I really that way? And then make some changes if you
Mhm.
feel it should be something different. But I know people that have been the same type of leader for, 40 years. They haven't changed. It's who they are. They're not going to
Yep.
change.
Yep.
And, they've been successful that way too. But, you know, I don't know. I think life is just more it is just more fun if you are able to explore yourself and other people and figure out how can we make this the best? What can we
Yeah.
do? Yeah.
That's a
Mhm.
takeaway for me is that we change, but also, we know as leaders people are motivated by different things, but also what motivates me and
Mhm.
asking that's a huge takeaway. One last question for you, and it's just more of a generic one, but what is something you're working on right now that's particularly energizing for you?
It's probably everybody is doing it. It's AI. I am just obsessed with AI. I've listened to hours of podcasts.
Mhm.
Read books. I've play and developed so many things. And then, yeah, talk to people that are in different fields and industries that are utilizing it and what they find effective with it and how to make it the best use for us so that we can be ahead of it versus waiting for it to come and happen to me. I
Mhm.
prefer to take control over it and try to understand it. But that is almost everybody that poor people that been talking to me, they'll say, yeah, she's obsessed about AI. Yeah.
Well, I read a statistic and I can't remember exact figure now, but in the ranking of countries in the world, Canada is much less afraid of AI.
Mm,
Americans in general tend to be more afraid, but we
yeah.
joke how Hawaii, Canada, we've got this
Yep.
connection, so it makes
We're,
sense.
that makes total sense because we are. We're so connected for sure. Yes. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lisa.
Yeah. Thank you.
Time flies when I'm talking to you, so thank you for all
Yeah.
your tips. I took a ton of notes and I have a bunch of takeaways as well.
Oh, you are amazing. I'm very lucky to know you. So I appreciate your time and I hope we help people. So I am
Yeah.
very thankful for you taking the time to put this together to help others. Yeah.
Thanks, Lisa. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Coalescence. If the topic resonated with you, please subscribe so you don't miss another episode. If you felt there was value in the conversation and the topic we explored, it really helps us if you share the podcast with people on your leadership team, other colleagues, friends, anyone that you think has interest in learning about meaningful dynamics in the workplace. You can also connect with me on social media if you would like to continue the conversation. Stay curious, stay thoughtful, pay attention to the patterns underneath performance, people, and cultures. Understanding modern work requires looking at things through multiple lenses. It's where human design, leadership systems, emerging technologies all intersect. Thanks for being here. See you next time on Coalescence.